This is the inaugural episode of what I'd like to call Stream Science. Name of the podcast dedicated to the science of streaming. So thank you all so very much for joining me tonight. I hope everybody is doing fantastic. Tonight, we're going to talk about a topic that is very, very relevant to my channel, and I'm sure many other channels out there on Twitch, especially from veteran streamers on the platform, and that is, when should you switch games? When should you stream a different game? And the reason why I'm talking about this now is because this is something that I've been going through recently, very, very recently on the channel. So for those of you who have followed me for a while now, you probably know that I've been streaming pretty much one game by the name of For Honor for the past year and 2 months or so of the channel. So 99.9% of my streams have been dedicated to this one game on Twitch. And I did that on purpose. The philosophy that I had when I got started on Twitch was find a niche game and stream that game as much as you possibly can, because I believe that's the fastest way to grow. But lately, the game has gotten stale for me, and I feel like I want to give some other games a try on the channel and start doing some different types of content for the channel here. So I've decided to leave For Honor behind for the time being, and I switched to World of Warcraft, which is a game I'm very, very familiar with. I've been playing for a very, very long time, but this is my first real crack at trying to stream it as a game to see where I can go in the directory. So, switching games, especially main game streamers, definitely will fall into this situation where if they've been streaming a game for really, really long and they've been enjoying a lot of growth, if you're anything like me, you're going to be afraid to switch. And you know, there's very, very good reason for that, and we'll get into that very shortly here. But first, I want to answer the question, when should you stream a different game? You know, when is it time to move on to something else? And there's two answers to this question. There is a simple answer, and then there's a much, much more complex answer. So we'll start with the simple answer first, and this is actually a big reason why I decided to switch anyways. The simple answer to the question as to when you should switch to stream a different game is if you're just not having fun with the game anymore. If you are not having fun with the game you're playing anymore, and the game you're playing you found has gotten really, really stale, it's probably a good time to think about switching, because at the end of the day, you are not going to, if you're not going to be having fun with what you're playing, your viewers aren't going to be having fun with watching what you're playing. So your viewers are gonna emulate your personality, right? We talked a little bit about this last week when we talked about the pie of viewers. If anybody is here from that whole thing, that whole spiel, you might remember the pie, right? You know, everybody in the world, and the philosophy behind the pie is, you know, everybody in the world fits into a certain group, like a certain personality, right? You know, there's happy people in the world, there's really, really sad, depressed people in the world, there's really toxic people in the world, and, you know, there's people that don't fit into any of those molds, right? And the philosophy behind the pie is, if you are a streamer, you're going to attract the people that are like your personality. So if I'm a really happy, upbeat, outgoing individual, my streamers are going to emulate those aspects of my personality. That's why they're going to be attracted to me, right? So that was the whole thing behind the pie. So likewise with that, if you are not having fun, you know, keeping in line with that same idea, that same way of thinking, if you aren't having fun with the game that you're playing, your streamers aren't going to have fun watching you. So that's the really, really simple answer. So if you've been streaming a game for a year, you know, a very, very long time now, and you're thinking about wanting to switch, you know, ask yourself if you're having fun with the game, and if the answer is no, probably a good time to think about switching into something else. Now the more complicated answer, and this is going to be the bulk of the podcast discussion here. So for me, you know, if you're looking at your growth on Twitch, right, if you've been a main game streamer, one game streamer for as long as you've been on the platform, and you're concerned about your growth, meaning, you know, the game that you've been streaming for the past couple months, you've kind of plateaued with growth, right? You're not really growing anymore. You kind of like felt like you hit your ceiling. You're feeling like your viewers are even maybe going down a little bit. You know, there's a couple things that you want to think about before you just decide to make a switch, because when I started streaming For Honor way back in my early days of streaming, I was stuck at single-digit viewers for 5 months straight. and then we shot up to 18 viewers, and then we shot up to 34, and then eventually we hit 130 average in July and June. We got partnered on the platform. So if you're finding that your growth is decreasing or plateaued with the game you're playing, I would say at first give it a little bit of time. You know, there's ebb and flow on Twitch. You know, there's seasonality on Twitch, just like there is with anything else, right? There's slow times and then there's busy times. You know, somebody told me a little while ago when I was afraid of streaming or afraid of switching games, and I made a YouTube video about this. They told me that, you know, people are in school right now. A lot of people are in school right now. A lot of people are busy with things. So maybe that's why some people, you know, as many people haven't been showing up to your streams as you've been used to. So you have to take that into account too. So I would say don't jump the gun with that. I would say give it a few months if you can. You know, give it a few months, give it a few weeks, or however long, however much time you need to give it for yourself, right? Because the time's going to vary from person to person, right? Some people are willing to wait, you know, 6 months and see what happens. Some people are only willing to wait 2 months. So you kind of have to gauge that time frame and get an idea of your head about how long you're willing to wait to ride this out to see if there's a change, right? To see if something changes. For me, when I got started last year, I was at single digits for 5 months, and then I shot off like a rocket, and you know, and all these great things happened to the channel. So if I would have switched before that 5-month mark, it would have been absolutely disastrous to me. I don't know where I would be right now if I would have switched after that 5-month mark. So definitely give it a little bit of time before you decide to do it. The next thing I want to talk about is when you are looking at switching, you have to prepare for viewer loss. You have to prepare for viewer loss. Every single streamer in the entire world is going to lose viewers when they switch games. Every single one. There is no exception to this rule. Not even Ninja. So you have to be willing to deal with the viewer loss that comes with switching games. And there's a couple examples I'd like to throw out at you guys right now that I would like to get your feedback on. And that's a couple streamers. If you're not familiar, by the way, there's a website called twinge.tv that it's kind of it's an interesting site, and I'll link it for you guys in the chat here. It's called twinge.tv. This is a website where you can actually look up the viewership stats of every single streamer on the platform that averages more than 15 viewers. So if you go to twinge.tv and in the search bar you type up Ninja, it's going to give you Ninja's stats. It's going to give you Ninja's viewership stats. It's going to give you his follower numbers. It's going to give you his average viewers by game. It's going to show you trends and growth and what games he plays and how many games that he averages while playing each of these games. So it's a really, really interesting tool. It's kind of a scary tool because you could look up anybody. You could look up my stats right now. You know, if I ended up lying about my viewership, for instance, you could look up my stats right now and be like, "Whoa, Hyperion, you said you had this many viewers, and I took a look at your channel and you only have this many, right?" So it's a little bit scary, but it is an interesting tool to use if you want to take a look at what's happening in other channels. So if you go to twinge.tv right now and look up Ninja's channel, for instance, Ninja usually averages around 80,000 viewers for Fortnite, and he recently played League of Legends just out of the clear blue, and he only averaged, I say only, but he averaged 40,000. So he went from streaming to 80,000 viewers in Fortnite to 40,000 when he streamed League of Legends. That's over a 50% loss of his viewership just because he switched games. Same person, same Ninja, same person that you've been used to watching, right? But just because he switched games, he lost over half of his normal viewership. Dr. Lupo is another example. So Dr. Lupo is also a big Fortnite streamer. He averages around 13,000 viewers in Fortnite. He's been streaming a lot of Destiny 2 lately because Forsaken has been coming out. He's gone from 13,000 viewers to 5,000 viewers in Destiny 2. That's over a 60% loss in viewership. And then for myself, my own example, I've been used to streaming For Honor. I've been streaming For Honor pretty much 5 days a week. And I averaged around 106 viewers a stream, like dating all the way back to when I first started For Honor. I switched from that to World of Warcraft, and I went from 106 viewers average to 26 viewers a stream. That's over a 75% loss in viewership. The moral of the story here, for everybody watching and everybody listening at home, is you're going to lose viewers when you switch games. No streamer is immune to viewer loss when they switch games. Not a one. Not even the biggest streamer in the world, Ninja, is immune to viewer loss when they switch games. On average, you'll probably lose around a half to 2/3 of your viewers. Results are obviously going to vary. For instance, I'm a little bit higher than that 2/3 viewership loss. Ninja is kind of in between. Lupo is kind of in between. Some people are less than that that 1/2 viewership loss. So results are going to vary from streamer to streamer, but the moral of the story here is if you are thinking about switching to a different game, if you've been streaming one game for most of your channel and you want to switch to something else, prepare for viewership loss. It is absolutely inevitable that it's going to happen. How many viewers you lose is going to depend on you. It's going to depend on how connected you are with the people watching. It's going to depend on the type of content that you're creating and delivering to everybody watching. So results are going to vary from streamer to streamer. The next point I'd like to get into here is research. Research is very, very important when you are looking at switching games. Research is a very, very great tool. There's another tool that I'd like to share with you guys here today called twitchstrike.com that I'm going to put in the chat for everybody here that's in the chat right now. And then if you're listening, you can just Google TwitchStrike or twitchstrike.com and it'll come right up for you. TwitchStrike is a very, very good tool to utilize into seeing how directories are behaving. So if you're not familiar with the site, pretty much what happens is you go to the site, you type in the search bar for whatever game that you want to look up. So say Fortnite, I want to see how many people are streaming Fortnite. I want to see what the viewer to follower or viewer to channel ratio is. I want to see how many viewers are in that directory, and I want to see how the directory has behaved over the past 28 days. TwitchStrike, it gives you the ability to do all of that. Now, like Twinge, which I shared earlier, TwitchStrike is it's not 100% accurate. There's going to be a little bit of margin for error there, but it's going to give you a pretty good picture on how the directory looks. So you can learn about how many people are watching, the viewer to channel ratio, behavior of the directory over the past 28 days, and more. So you can check all of that on twitchstrike.com, which I think is a very, very underutilized tool that streamers, they don't utilize enough when they're researching directories and trying to figure out what game they want to play, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're wanting to switch, you have to figure out what game you want to play. That's what every streamer has to eventually figure out. So go on TwitchStrike, use the information presented to you to get an idea of where you would stack up in the directory that you want to go to. And then make sure you account for the viewer loss before doing this. So again, if I'm used to 100 viewers in For Honor, and I know that I'm probably going to lose about half to 2/3 of those viewers if I switch, you probably want to pick a directory where after that viewership loss, you're going to be as high in the directory as possible, because you don't want to run into a situation where you're going from 100 viewers to 20 viewers and then trying to stream something like Fortnite, where 20 viewers is not even going to get you anywhere near the top of the directory, and it's going to be absolutely impossible to find your channel. So I would take your average viewers, account for the estimated viewers that you think you're going to lose when you switch, and then use TwitchStrike to figure out how many channels you're going to compete with, and then go on the directory on Twitch and see after those estimated viewers you think you're going to keep, where you would be on the directory. That's the next thing I would do. So again, it's not 100% accurate, but it gives a pretty good picture, and I found it to be pretty reliable actually when I'm researching directories on Twitch and seeing how directories are behaving, including my own directory that I've been streaming in. So I definitely recommend it as a tool that you guys and gals could use, because I think it's a little bit underutilized. I don't hear too many people talking about it. I just want to say really quick for everybody here, thank you all so much for hanging out. I appreciate it very, very much. If you guys have a question, you can always use Command Q and A in the chat. It'll take you to a question and answer form. You can click on that, fill out the question, submit it, include your name, and then I can read it live on stream after the podcast portion, after the lecture portion of the podcast is over. So definitely check that out. So we're talking about directories, and we talked about research, and we talked about Twitch Strike. So the next thing I would recommend doing is actually browsing the directory on Twitch and seeing where you stack up. There's an interesting statistic that I read today on Time Magazine via Google about the average attention span of a person, and I thought this was really, really fascinating. So according to Time Magazine, the average attention span of a person is 8 seconds. 8 seconds is the average attention span of a person. In 2012, that was 12 seconds. So we can reasonably say, with science backing this up, right, stream science, the average attention span of a person is probably somewhere between 8 and 12 seconds. You can use this information to your advantage. In other words, if somebody is going to get bored within 8 to 12 seconds, try to position yourself in a directory where it will take 8 to 12 seconds for someone to find your channel. In other words, if I'm looking at Fortnite as a directory I want to go into that I eventually want to switch to, right? And you're going in the directory and you're scrolling down. Everybody's done this, right? You go into a directory and you scroll down for streamers, right? You're trying to find somebody to watch. This is what the average viewer does. You want to have your channel appear within 8 to 12 seconds. Because it's scientifically backed up that any longer than that, you're going to run the risk of losing that person's attention. In other words, if I'm streaming, if I'm streaming in Fortnite and it takes you 5, 10, 20 minutes, an hour to stream down in the directory far enough to find my channel, it's very, very rare that somebody is going to stick around that long to scroll that far down in the directory to find your channel. Right? The reason why I decided to switch to World of Warcraft is because I'm within that 8 to 12 second mark in the directory. So my average viewers in World of Warcraft have been around 25 to 30 on any given night. You could scroll down in World of Warcraft, and after between 8 and 12 seconds, you'll get down to that viewership range or right around it. You're going to be within that. You're going to be within that window before, according to Time Magazine, the average person loses attention and gets bored and then they want to do something else. So if you've been following me, you know how much I tout not streaming a saturated game, but if you built up enough of a viewership where you're high enough up in the directory to be found within a reasonable amount of time, it could pay off for you in the long run, even though you might take a hit temporarily with your viewership. So I found that was very, very fascinating. The average attention span of a person is 8 to 12 seconds. Did anybody know that? Like, do you think that that's higher or lower than the average? I honestly would have thought that was really, really low. I honestly probably would have said something around like 20 or 30 seconds. I know people are easily distracted these days, especially with like social media and stuff like that, but 8 to 12 seconds is not much time. And within this same idea now, if it takes somebody 8 to 12 seconds to become bored or to lose attention, right? You have 8 to 12 seconds when somebody pops in your chat to make a good impression on somebody, right? So you can use that 8 to 12 second rule in a lot of different ways to try to position yourself in the best way possible to grab people's attention, to make your stream stand out from others, and to build a regular viewership. That's what everybody wants at the end of the day. But long story short, get into a directory where within 8 to 12 seconds your channel can be found, and don't stream Fortnite. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, nobody wants to scroll down to the bottom of the directory to find your channel if you're streaming Fortnite. Like, nobody wants to do that, I promise. So my next point here, now that we've talked about research, so far we've talked about preparing for viewership loss. We've talked about doing your research. And now we're going to talk about just doing it, right? There's a big meme out there right now with Nike, and I don't know if you guys and gals have seen this meme going around, but it's like there's like an image of somebody and it's like grayed out, and then there's some sort of quote, and then there's just do it at the bottom, right? That's like the big popular meme that's going around right now. I saw a Mike Tyson one that was really, really funny actually before I started stream. So you have to just do it, right? So at some point in every streamer's career, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to switch games. That's just the fact of the matter. Nobody can stream one game forever. Even Fortnite. Even Fortnite is going to lose its popularity. In fact, I predict that within a year or so, Battle Royale is going to be, everybody's going to be past Battle Royale. You know, Battle Royale came out of nowhere and it's super, super popular and everybody knows what Battle Royale games are and all this stuff, right? You know, trends come and go, though. Trends go as quickly, you know, they come as quickly as they go, right? So I feel like Battle Royale is in its maturity right now. There's so many Battle Royale games out right now, and everybody's kind of getting sick of Battle Royale. You know, you see a lot of people around the internet and around Twitch and around Mixer and on all these, you know, video game sites and all. You know, everybody kind of groans when the next Battle Royale game comes out. Everybody's like, oh my God, another one. That's like the 50th game in the past year or so. So, you know, I feel like Battle Royale is at that phase now where people are kind of starting to get sick of it. And I feel like people are going to start getting bored of it. So I think it's going to start declining here within the next year or so. And if you're stuck in a Battle Royale game, you're going to feel that hit with viewership. So you always have to be thinking about the next big thing, right? There's always going to come a time where you're going to have to switch games eventually. Eventually, it's going to happen to every single person on the platform. You have to keep innovating, and you have to think ahead, and you have to think long term to get ahead of the curve so you can take advantage of these trends, right? That's exactly what Ninja did. Ninja was a 5,000 viewer average streamer. So I hear. I never watched Ninja, but I'll take people in my chat's word for it. Ninja was a 5,000 average streamer, 5,000 viewer average streamer, and then Fortnite blew up, and now he's at like 80,000, right? He got ahead of the curve. He took a chance on something, and he stuck with it, and then it rose to popularity, and he rose along with it. But with the rise, there's always eventually going to come the fall, right? So he has to be prepared for that as well. And if he's smart, he's already thinking about what his next move is going to be. And I think that more streamers, it would behoove more streamers to do the same. So you always should be looking ahead to the next big thing. Now, the good news, for those of you who missed Fortnite, because the time to stream Battle Royale isn't now. The time to stream Battle Royale was a year and a half ago, before anybody knew what Battle Royale was. So the good news is there's always going to be the next big thing. The next big thing is always right around the corner. That's the good news for anybody who wants to have a first mover advantage to the next smash hit in the streaming world, the next smash hit in video games, right? There's always going to be something else around the corner. The bad news is the next big thing is really, really hard to find, and you have to take a risk. And if you don't take that risk and you're just stuck playing a game that you're not enjoying just for the sake of keeping your viewership high, which is what I was doing for a while, and you're stuck in that mold and you can't break away from that mold, if you're stuck there, you're going to miss it, and you're going to miss a lot of opportunity for your channel. So you have to jump into the deep end of the pool and figure out if you can swim. You know, I alluded to this a little bit yesterday when I was talking about the kiddie pool, when I was talking about why I switched from For Honor. I felt like I was in the kiddie pool in For Honor. You know, I'm used to it. It's comfortable. I know exactly what to expect. I'm averaging 130 viewers a stream. I can always count on those people showing up. I have nothing to worry about. Everything's fine and dandy, and everything's all great, right? I'm in the kiddie pool, right? I'm not scared at all. I'm very, very comfortable. I'm very, very complacent in what I'm doing. You have to jump. Sometimes, if you really, really want to make it on Twitch, there's going to come a time where you have to jump into the deep end of the pool and figure out if you can swim. There's going to come a time where you have to figure out if you can swim in the deep end of the pool. And if you've grown a community on Twitch in a smaller game like For Honor, and you have a lot of viewership in that community, you can leverage that to take a look at other directories with much more viewership potential, much more growth potential. And that's what I'm doing with World of Warcraft, and that's what other streamers have done. Some have failed. Some have been super, super successful. Somebody mentioned in my stream yesterday that a lot of For Honor streamers decided to try to jump into Fortnite, or to jump into a saturated game, what they would consider a saturated game, right? And they failed. And they either stopped streaming that game or they went back to what they were used to in For Honor. But there's also a lot of streamers in For Honor that had tons of success when they made that leap. King Richard, Cypher PK, for instance. Cypher PK and King Richard where a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or so streamer average viewer streamers in For Honor. Cypher PK averages how many viewers a stream now? Like 20,000 or something like that. King Richard is at like 10,000, right? These used to be For Honor streamers in the directory. These used to be people that would just stream For Honor. And they took the leap, and they ended up being super, super successful. So, you know, so it goes both ways. Yeah, it's a risk, but it's a risk worth taking if it works out. And if it doesn't work out, you can either readjust or go back to what you're used to. There's always something else that you can do if it doesn't work out. It's not like if you stream For Honor and then you decide to stream Fortnite and you don't grow in Fortnite, that's it. You're done. It's over. I can't stream anymore. I gave it a shot. I took the risk. It didn't work out. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself anymore. That's not the case. There's always some way that you can adjust to that. But, you know, King Richard and Cypher PK, somebody saying Cypher's average is 9K, 10K. Yeah, Cypher was not even, and Cypher wasn't even getting 1,000 viewers when he streamed For Honor. I know because I was watching him back in the day when For Honor was at the height of its popularity last fall, right around when I started streaming. King Richard, the same thing. They were sub 1,000 streamers, and they jumped into Fortnite, and now they're 10,000 plus, and they're huge, huge names on Twitch. So yeah, you could fail, and it might not end up working out. But there's also the other side of that coin as well, where, dude, if you take a risk and it ends up working out, it could be the absolute best thing that happened to your channel. Absolute best thing to your channel. If anybody would ask King Richard or Cypher PK right now, hey, do you plan on streaming For Honor? What do you think they would say to you? What do you think they would say to you if you asked them, hey, do you ever think about going back to For Honor? Why would they? They enjoy Fortnite, and they're averaging really, really great numbers in Fortnite. I mean, why would they? It wouldn't make, unless they're just bored of Fortnite, which I suppose could be the case sometimes. But if you're averaging from if you're asking from a growth standpoint and a business standpoint and a streaming standpoint on Twitch, if you ask them what would you rather stream, For Honor or Fortnite, I guarantee you they both would say Fortnite 100% of the time. So you have to take a dive in the deep end of the pool and figure out if you can swim. And if you can't swim, then readjust, adapt, and figure out what your next move is going to be. But you're never gonna know what your full potential on Twitch is, or Mixer, or Facebook, or whatever streaming platform you decide to use. You're never gonna know what your full potential is if you don't take a risk. If you're just complacent and you just stick with what you're doing and you stick with what you know, and then that's it. You're never gonna realize your full potential if you don't put yourself out there. Ice Guys has been streaming on For Honor nonstop since season 7. I don't think he's touched Fortnite. Yeah, exactly. Ice Guys in For Honor averages 400 viewers a stream, give or take. He was averaging less than 100 in Fortnite. He decided to come back to For Honor. Now, Ice Guys has said on his stream that he wasn't really happy streaming Fortnite, at least so I hear. So that was a decision that he made. But, you know, yeah, it works both ways. Some people will go from being successful in one game to taking a risk and it ends up not working out. Other people will go from streaming a game and taking a risk and it ends up being the best thing that ever happened to them. And I guarantee you, if you ask Cypher PK or King Richard, do you regret leaving For Honor to stream Fortnite? Guarantee both of you would say, hell no. Because look at where they are now and look at where their channels are now. So before we get into Q&A here, guys, and if you haven't asked a question yet, you can always use Command Q&A in the chat. It will take you to a Q&A form, a Google form, where you can fill out a question. You can submit it with your name on stream, and then I will be able to read it live in the Q&A section of the stream here. So before I do that, I'm going to leave you guys with this as I sip my water again for the 8th time. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed on Twitch or Mixer or Facebook or anything. But a really, really good friend of mine named Malicious, who I am sure many of you in my chat have heard of. Malicious. He's a really, really good For Honor streamer. Excellent all-around guy. Really great, inspiring entertainer. Back in April, way before I started playing WoW, way back in April, I had this very, very same conversation with Mully. And I told him, and I said, and I was talking to Mully, and I said, listen, man, I'm scared about switching games. You've had a lot of success in a bunch of things. What's your advice? You know, give me some wisdom here, and you know, give me some. Put my mind at ease, right? Help me understand what the risks involved with switching games is. And this was a Twitter conversation I had with him way back in April 26th. I wrote down the exact date for you guys here. 200 viewer average streamer. I think last I heard he has like 600 subs or something like that. This is what he said to me. Quote, "I've started over 3 times now, and each time I've grown bigger. You take what you learn and applied it to the bigger directories. Just never stop having fun with it, and you're golden. People use your stream as an outlet, so stay true to who you are as an entertainer, and there's no reason for you to fail." That is what Malicious said to me back in April when I was talking with him about switching games and how I was scared about leaving For Honor to give something else a try. Back in April, I was thinking about this, right? It took me a long time to act on it, but back in April, and I've had conversations with other people in my chat right now about this very, very same thing, where I was scared about switching games because I'm enjoying really amazing growth here on Twitch. I got partnered on Twitch in 10 months. I was averaging 100 viewers a stream from complete scratch. Nobody knew who my name was in June of last year before I started streaming. And now I have all these wonderful things happening to the channel, and it's been great. And I'm scared to leave all that stuff behind. But you have to take that risk if you want to keep growing as a streamer. You just have to do it, because if you limit your potential, if you limit yourself, you're never going to realize your full potential. And it might work out, it might not. Nothing's ever guaranteed in the streaming world, but I do know that if you're doing the right things and you're doing your research and you're applying the science of streaming, right? And you're an excellent entertainer and you're interacting with your chat and you're doing all the things you need to, like Malicious said, it's gonna work out. And that's all I got for you here today, guys. So that is it for the podcast portion of the stream. I appreciate everybody who stuck around and asked questions in the chat and submitted questions on the forum. I'm gonna go to the question and answer form right now. And we do have a few questions in here. So if you haven't submitted a question yet, we're gonna keep going live until however many questions we get through. You can use Command Q&A in the chat. You can ask me anything you want about streaming, and I will read your question live. And then once I get through the questions, I'll read a little bit of chat and see if there's any comments in the chat that stick out. And then we'll start wrapping it up with some final thoughts here before we leave. So let's get to some questions here. And it's very, very hot in my room, so I apologize for having to keep sipping on my water. I need to turn my air up a little bit. Warfus asks, when will Fortnite die? I kind of answered this a little bit during the lecture of the stream here. I see Fortnite dying, and I mean die is like a really, really harsh word, right? But one of the points I made during the podcast, during the lecture portion of the podcast here, was I feel like Battle Royale as a genre is in its maturity. I feel like people are kind of groaning now at Battle Royale and kind of groaning at Fortnite and kind of like, Jesus. You know, there's like a million Battle Royale games out right now. Like, everybody's just kind of like getting sick of it a little bit. So I feel like we're in that phase right now where it shot up, popularity shot up like a rocket, and now it's just kind of like, all right, like, you know, we've seen it. Everybody knows what Fortnite is now. You know, what's the next thing? You know, what's going to be the next thing that everybody looks forward to? That's going to be that shakes up the world of video games, right? So I feel like we're kind of there. I would say within the next year or so, you'll probably start seeing Fortnite decline in viewers. That's my guess. You're kind of already seeing it with Ninja. I think Ninja's been at about 70 or 80,000 viewers a stream the past week or so. I was checking him before. He's at 70,000 right now, according to what I have open on Twitch on my laptop right now. So he was at 100,000 viewers about a month or so ago, right? So you're already kind of seeing, you know, as Ninja goes, so does the rest of the world in Fortnite, right? If Ninja is starting to lose viewers, which it looks like he is, every other streamer is going to start losing viewers as well, because that means if the #1 streamer in the most popular video game in the world is losing viewers, the less popular streamers are going to lose viewers as well, right? So you're seeing Ninja kind of decline a little bit in viewers. I'm not sure if that's just a temporary thing. Again, it could be the seasonality of Twitch. School has started. Fortnite has a much, 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 much younger audience than most games on Twitch. So a lot of school-aged people, we'll put it nicely, school-aged people are busy with their studies right now and stuff like that. So that could be part of the reason why he's been declining. It may not necessarily be the decline of Fortnite and Battle Royale as a whole, but you can't help but still notice that that is a very, very significant loss in viewership compared to where he was a month ago. So we'll see if that continues. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it. And we'll see what happens. It's hard to tell right now because it hasn't been very long where that's been happening. It's been a very, very recent development. I would say if in another month or so he's still around that 70,000 viewership range, or he's even lower than that, I think at that point you can probably start saying that Fortnite is declining a little bit. How much remains to be seen. Dark Chris Gaming asks, trying to find something for my viewers to feel closer to the community and myself as the stream. What do you do personally to make your viewers feel like they matter just as much as the next person, other than the obvious interactivity, remembering them, or an aspect about your life, etc.? It's kind of a tough question to answer because you answered a lot of the things that I would say already. I love remembering things about viewers. When somebody comes into my stream and I ask them, how was your birthday party with your nephew the other day? How was that? What ended up happening with that job that you applied for? I think that's a really, really big thing that you can do, is remember something about somebody. The interactivity and aspect of their life, I mean, that kind of fits in that same mold, right? So I think a big thing that you can do that doesn't fit into that mold that you already put in your question is getting your viewers involved in what you're doing. Dr. Disrespect really, really pushes this as a point for his stream. You know, he's got the Champions Club, right? And, you know, if you sub to the channel, you get your own locker room in the Champions Club, and you get access to the Lamborghini and the helicopter pad or whatever, right? He's got all these things that that actually bring you into his world and gets you involved in what he's doing. I think that's a really, really powerful thing, because when you have a group of people, you know, it goes beyond just the streamer and the viewers, right? You want to break that wall, right? If you can break that wall, the computer screen would be the proverbial wall that I'm using in this metaphor here. If you can break that wall and bring those people into your world and get them involved in what you're doing, I think that's absolutely profound. How you do that, it's tough to say, because that's Doc's thing he does, right? So maybe you could do something like, you know, a simple thing like having your community vote on what game that they would like to see you play, or taking suggestions from your community about what game that they would like to see you play, or getting feedback from them on what emotes that you would like to add to the channel, or something like that. It can be simple stuff like that, and it can be really, really complex stuff like what Dr. Disrespect does. So for me personally, I keep in touch with my viewers on my Discord server, and I think when I am doing podcasts like this and talking about streaming and trying to help streamers grow their channels, because I know that there's a lot of streamers in my channel that hang out on a daily basis, I think that's a way you can get them involved, because if I'm giving a streamer advice and they follow my advice and they become successful, it might not happen 100% of the time. I could be wrong on some things, but just hypothetically, let's say I'm right about 100% of everything, right? And I tell you to do this thing for your channel and see what happens. I promise you'll grow. And then they do that thing. It feels like you've broken that wall, right? Now it's like more of like a teacher-student relationship, and now it's more like a collaborative relationship than it is just I'm streaming to you, you're watching me do whatever I want, right? So I think if you're gonna preface it with doing things outside of the obvious, I think that's a really, really great thing that not a lot of streamers do, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. But I think it's a very, very powerful thing to do if you can do it right. And just look at what happens with Doc. I mean, he has a true community on Twitch. His viewers, he and his viewers are one and the same, you know? So I think it's a really, really powerful thing if you can execute it correctly. Would you ever play Fortnite? Do you not enjoy it? Another one that keeps streaming. Thank you so much, Lil Funk, for the question. I appreciate you. Would you ever play Fortnite? No, I would never play Fortnite. I've answered, I get this question a lot. Surprisingly, considering how much I say I hate Fortnite as a game to stream on Twitch, I do get this question a lot. I would never stream Fortnite for a couple reasons. One, it is the worst game to stream on Twitch because there are 15,000 people streaming it, and I do not have enough of viewership to compete. So I would effectively put a dagger in my channel. And two, I just don't enjoy, I don't enjoy Battle Royale. I've never really been into Battle Royale. I've watched Fortnite. It's kind of fun to watch. You know, yeah, I mean, it's cool. You know, PUBG is fun to watch once in a while, right? But I can't sit here and watch Fortnite and be really, really engaged in what the game has to offer, right? So this was I'll use for a lot of you recognize this name I'm about to say in the chat. It reminds me of Absolver. You guys remember Absolver? I watched Absolver when it came out, and I was like, this is the most boring game I've ever seen. Like, what the heck is this game? I feel like I'm falling asleep just watching this game, right? Now, if those of you in the chat who like Absolver, nothing against you. If you guys love Absolver, more power to you. I happen to like things that don't put me to sleep. I know, it's crazy, right? But when I was watching Absolver, I didn't know what was happening. It wasn't very intuitive as to what was going on. It was hard for me to watch. I felt bored watching it. And because of that, I had a pretty good idea that I wouldn't have fun playing it. But I played it anyways, and I streamed it for one day. I streamed Absolver for one day, and that was it. That was my Absolver career on Twitch, because I just didn't like the game. And I thought the game was boring, and certainly the game is not in a position to make you grow on Twitch at all. I think there's like 6 people watching it or something like that right now. So I feel like kind of the same way about Fortnite, although Fortnite is immensely popular. Nothing like Absolver at all. But I feel like I'm watching Fortnite, and I'm just kind of like, I mean, yeah, this is kind of cool to watch, but it never really looked, it just never was a game that grabbed me. And like all Battle Royale games, I'm kind of just tired of Battle Royale. I'm just really, really tired of Battle Royale personally. So yeah, that's the long answer as to why I will never stream Fortnite. But short answer, it'll kill my channel, and I don't enjoy it. That's why I don't stream Fortnite. Crow asks, Crimson Crow. I love Crimson Crow. Such a great person. Thank you for asking a question, Crimson. I can always count on you for asking a couple questions in the chat and being active. Are there any upcoming new directories in which you are interested to try to put yourself into while it's fresh? I don't feel like there's a lot of new stuff on Twitch right now. And I'm looking at my directory, kind of trying to find something that jumps out at me. Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, but I would get absolutely buried in that directory, so... And Spider-Man never really interested me anyways, as a game to play. You know what's interesting? Dota is pretty far down the list right now, and I am a huge, huge Dota fan. I watch the International every year. You know, it's interesting to see Dota so far down the list. Dota actually is not a bad game to stream right now, to be honest. Wow, it's really, really not. If you go to Dota right now, there's 24,000 viewers in Dota right now. If you filter by English, you have to filter by English. The 4th row of the directory is at 20 viewers. That's crazy for Dota. That's really, really interesting. Like, holy crap, like Dota is actually not a bad game to stream right now if you're an English streamer. So Dota definitely jumps out at me. Trying to find some other stuff down here. I would like to give Soul Calibur a try when it comes out. Soul Calibur looks fun. Scum doesn't really interest me that much. Not other than that, there's not really a lot of new stuff that that's kind of jumping out at me in the directory right now. I would say probably Soul Calibur would be one game, and certainly Dota's jumping out at me right now, like big time. I don't know if I'll stream Dota, but I'll tell you what, man. 20,000 viewers, and if you're an English streamer, you'll be in the 4th, 5th row of the directory at 20 viewers. That's looking pretty promising. I gotta be completely honest here. That's looking pretty darn promising. So yeah, I would say definitely Dota's jumping out at me right now. If you're a MOBA fan right now, if you're a huge MOBA fan, I would stream Dota right now. I would stream, definitely not League of Legends. You'll be buried in League of Legends. I'm looking at the League of Legends directory right now, and you'll be buried in League of Legends unless you're around at least 30 to 50 viewers. I think you'll be buried in League of Legends. But Dota too. Jeez, if I was a MOBA fan right now, I would be giving Dota 2 a shot and seeing if I have the viewership. You can't start with Dota because you'll get buried, but if you play like Heroes of the Storm, for instance, usually, and you've built up a community through Heroes of the Storm, and you have, like, you know, if you feel like you'd get a solid 30 to 40 people follow you, I'll tell you what, Dota is a really, really attractive directory right now, in my opinion. Really, really attractive directory right now, in my opinion, for sure. So yeah, that definitely jumps out at me. But yeah, short answer, Dota, and what was the other one I said? Soul Calibur. Max Fax, what's up? How are you doing? You can ask a question using the Q&A, command Q&A. If somebody could share that in the chat, I'd appreciate that. And then I can read your question. Dead by Daylight really doesn't jump out at me. I was never interested in Dead by Daylight, and I'm taking a look at Dead by Daylight's directory right now. Let's see how this looks. Honestly, it looks worse than Dota. I will say that. But I'm still not too bad. Still not bad at all. But yeah, I used to watch True Talent play Dead by Daylight, and I never really got into it. So yeah. Go on to the next question. Belle! Hi, Belle! How are you tonight? Thank you for asking a question, Belle. Hope your night is going well. Before I ask this question, Croy's in the chat says, I'm gonna be back. Gotta stream Dota real quick, Monka Giga. I'll tell you what, man. If you are a MOBA streamer, I would be all over Dota right now. I would be all over Dota right now if you can get 30 to 40 viewers. Absolutely. That's a really, really good looking directory. That's so surprising too, because the international wasn't very long ago. Belle asks, why did you stop streaming For Honor? Talked about this a lot, but since I love you, Belle, I will answer the question again. I haven't talked about it tonight, to be fair. Why did I stop streaming For Honor? Short answer, I just got bored of the game. The game just felt like it was getting really, really stale for me. If I was still having fun with the game, I would still be streaming it. So I'm a duelist in For Honor. I play one character because I love Valkyrie. For those of you in the chat who know who Valkyrie is, Omega Lulz in the chat for Valkyrie. So duels is kind of a meme, in my opinion. Duels is definitely a meme at high level play. That's why no competitive players play duels. So there's really not a lot there in my preferred game mode is duels, because I'm the best at it and I enjoy it the most. There's not really a whole lot there because at high levels of play it's a complete meme. Ranked is a complete meme as well. So there's not really a lot there. And my character sucks. So yeah, as far as the enjoyment aspect, is concerned, that is why I stopped streaming For Honor. And plus, I've been thinking about switching from For Honor for a very, very long time. I talked briefly about my chat with Malicious on Twitter, who is a very, very big For Honor streamer. He averages like 200 viewers a stream. I had a conversation with Malicious back in April saying that I was getting bored of For Honor and that I was thinking about switching. So this has been something that's been a long time in the making. And if I'm looking at the directory right now, there's only 1,000 viewers in the directory, and 500 of those viewers are in one channel. So there's also not a lot of growth potential there for somebody at my level. Now, if you are a new streamer, For Honor, if you are a new streamer or a smaller streamer, a growing streamer, For Honor is an excellent game to stream. Excellent game to stream right now, because there's less than like 100 people streaming it, I think. Something like that right now. I'm kind of eyeballing the directory and scrolling down to the bottom, and it takes me 10 seconds. It takes me 10 seconds or so to scroll to the very, very last channel of the directory in For Honor. So if you are a growing streamer or a new streamer, For Honor is an excellent game for you to stream. But if you're around my level, where I hit about 130 viewers average, and you're kind of feel like you're plateauing, that's I felt like that was my ceiling with For Honor. I felt like I didn't have a lot of potential to grow higher than 130 viewers average, because there's just not enough viewers to go around. Like I said, there's 1,000 viewers watching For Honor right now. 50% of them are in one channel. 50% of the 1,000 viewers are in one channel right now. So the directory, this is how the first 4 streamers in the directory goes viewership wise, respectively. Number 1 has 481 viewers. Number 2, 93. Number 3, 46. Number 4, 27. So between the first and 4th streamer of the directory, there's over a 400 viewer loss. The reason why I'm saying that is because that, to me, is not a healthy sign of a directory, because there's a decent amount of viewers. 1,000 viewers for a game is pretty decent for Twitch, but 50% of them are in one channel, and there's not enough viewers for the rest of the people in the channel to go around, right? So from an enjoyment aspect, and from a growth aspect on Twitch, I felt like I hit my max, and I wanted to take a break, because it's kind of a slow time for the game right now. The open test right now for Marching Fire, the next big expansion for the game, is out right now, which has honestly been disappointing for numbers on Twitch. I figured a lot more people would be watching on Twitch, and they're not. So that tells you something right there too, right? So and then so you have a very, very slow time for the game right now, and there's not a lot of potential there. So I figured right now would be a great time to give something else a try while the game is kind of slow, because the game's going to get more popular in October when Marching Fire hits, right? October 16th is when it hits. So I figured between the end of August and the beginning of October, when everybody's just kind of waiting for Marching Fire and there's not a lot of interest in the game, I feel like that's a good time. I felt like that was a good time for me to give something else a try. The science of streaming. So yeah, that is why I stopped streaming For Honor. And it wasn't an easy decision to make. It was not an easy decision to make. I'll tell you something right now. It has not been fun going from 130 viewers to 30 viewers a stream. It's not fun when that happens. But I definitely have a newfound appreciation for everybody that has stuck around, because those are my true supporters, right? The people that are following me no matter what I'm playing. Those are the true supporters. So I definitely have a newfound appreciation for the people that have stuck around, for sure. Yoshi, how are you doing? I see you in the chat there. I'm trying not to ignore chat, but I'm just going through the questions here. So if you do want me to answer a question, you can use the Q&A form in the chat, and then you can ask whatever you would like. I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them in the chat right now, but I just want to get through the questions here. Then once I get through the questions, I will start reading some comments in chat if we have time. We're at about an hour right now, so we're getting a little bit closer to when I would like to end. But yeah, so if you want me to address a question that you have, you can always use the Q&A form using Command Q &A in the chat. Speaking of questions, Crow has another one. I don't know if it's against TOS or not, so feel free to ignore this question for now. Okay, well, I'll have to I'll have to read the rest of it silently then. it's a question about payouts, which is not, it's not against TOS for me to mention that. It is against TOS to share your revenue on Twitch. So I would caution everybody who doesn't know that rule to not do that. I did a video on my Twitch journey recently, and I blurred out the revenue section of my video. I did that on purpose because it's against TOS to share your revenue stats on Twitch. I will say this is how it works. And this is not against TOS. This is publicly available information made through Twitch. There's $100. You have to hit at least $100 every single month to get a payout. So it's not a cumulative amount. So meaning if I hit $100 in August, that does not mean that I automatically get paid out for September no matter what I earn. You have to earn at least $100 to get paid out, and then you get paid 45 days from the end of the month where you hit $100. So for example, if I hit $100 in August and I'm waiting for my payout will come 45 days from the end of August. So I will get paid for August the second week of October. That's how it works. If I hit $100 in August and then I hit 50 for September, I don't get paid for September until I hit $100. So I would have to hit $100. I would have to make up that difference between September and October. So say I hit $100 in August, right? I'm getting my payout in the second week of October. So August is done. I only hit $50 in September. I have to hit $100 in October. So I have to get $50 more in October. And then 45 days from the end of that month is when I will receive my payout. And I will receive the payout for the 2 months for September and October. That's how it works. Does that make sense for everybody in the chat? I think that makes sense. But that's how it works on Twitch. So if it takes you 3 months to aggregate $100, you get paid at the end. You get paid 45 days from the end of that month where you hit $100. That's how affiliate payouts work. Darkris Gaming asks again, mentally, how do you cope with staying consistent on stream? Great question. In relation to balancing work, your relationship, and keeping a consistent streaming schedule. Lately, I've been streaming after work, but also normally means missing out on mental tasks like cooking, cleaning, etc. What do you do to balance this? This is an interesting question. This is an interesting question. Hold on, Crow wants me to. Do I have to claim it? No, you shouldn't have to. I would. It might be 60 for affiliates, actually, Bell. You might be right about that. I think it might be 45 for partners. Look at the payment terms. It'll show you the payment terms on your dashboard. It should show you the payment terms there. I know I'm kind of reading chat right now and ignoring you, Darkris, but I will get to your question here. It might actually be 60 for affiliates. It's been a long time since I've been an affiliate, so I think I'm on different payment terms. I would check out your Twitch dashboard and then see what it says. And if you can't find information there, maybe, I'm sure somebody on Reddit has asked that question too. But if you still can't get help, you can always reach out to Twitch support, I'm sure, or send somebody a tweet or an email or something, and they'll get to you. But it should. I thought it was 45 universally as well, Squirrel, but maybe it's not. I'm not sure. All right, back to Darkris's question. And to remind everybody, mentally, he or she asks. I don't want to assume one's gender in 2018. Darkris asks, mentally, how do you cope with staying consistent on stream in relation to balancing work, your relationship, and keeping a consistent streaming schedule? Lately, I've been streaming after work, but also normally means missing out on menial tasks. I said mental tasks. It's actually menial. Menial tasks like cooking, cleaning, etc. What do you do to balance this? This is a really interesting question because recently I made a big change to my daily routine to give myself some more time during the day. And it'll sound like kind of a silly example at first, but bear with me. Just stick with me. I promise it'll be worth it. So lately I have been streaming World of Warcraft, right? And on Sundays and Tuesdays, my guild's raid schedule is 8 to midnight my time. but I work at 7:30 the next morning. Usually, I would wake up at 6:40 and I would take a shower and I would pack lunch and I would kind of mosey around and get dressed and then go through the dryer because nobody does laundry, right? Like everybody hates laundry, including me, so I never do my laundry. I live out of my dryer. Does anybody else do this, by the way? They'll just leave the clothes in the dryer and then they'll run the dryer every time they have to get something to wear to get the wrinkles out. That's what I do every single morning, or I used to do every single morning, right? So I used to wake up at 6:40 and have to be at work by 7:30. Ending raid at midnight and then only sleeping until 6:40 was not enough sleep for me. So I thought to myself, okay, how can I get more time in a day? And what I did is I don't take showers in the morning anymore. I shower the night before. I lay all of my clothes out that I'm going to wear the next day. I lay out my outfit on my bed for the next day. I pack my lunches the night before. And I do all of the stuff that I would have done the following morning just the night before. And now I can sleep in an extra hour, pretty much. So I'm actually getting more sleep while streaming later than I was when I was streaming before because of my routine in the morning. It's science! It's stream science! Stream science! It's stream science, man! Just follow the science, forehead! So that's what I did, because I felt like I needed more time. So, my recommendation is you have to find, right, your time is at an absolute premium, right? Your time is your most valuable asset as a content creator. Your time is your most valuable asset. You need as much time as you possibly can to create content, to go live, to network with other streamers, to build a community, to stay in touch with the people that you've already built relationships with, right? So time is your most valuable asset, and you want to maximize how much time you can have throughout the day. So something simple like, you know, what I did with doing my morning routine the night before gave me an extra hour in the day. And now I have an extra hour to create more content and sleep in, for instance. But I think what you can do if you're having a hard time with balance, because balance is very, very important. Balance is very, very important. If you're in a relationship, which I am married, you have to have the full support of your wife or significant other before you start this, because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to be successful on Twitch. So you have to have the full support of your significant other. I would say that's the first thing you need if you're going to do this. If you're single and you have an open schedule, you're good to go, man. You're going to be the you're going to be the next ninja. No, I mean it would be great if it were that easy, right? So, you know, take an inventory on how much time you're spending throughout the day, and there are actually like templates and stuff like that you can use online. I watched a video from Gary Vee actually today from his Twitter. I'm going to see if I can pull it up for you guys here really quick, because it was a really great video. Does anybody know who Gary Vee is? Gary Vee is a very inspirational entrepreneur, and he is foul-mouthed and vulgar, but he knows exactly what he's talking about. And I watched this little, it's a short 1 minute 20 second video that he has on his Twitter, and I just linked it for those of you who are in the chat. And for those of you who are just listening here, you can go on his Twitter, and you could probably find the video relatively easily. The title of the video is "You Have 18 Hours," right? So pretty much what he's saying is you have 18 hours in the day, and you only need 6 hours of sleep, right? The average person, you can live on 6 hours of sleep, right? But you have 18 hours during the day. So if you're driving, if you have a 9 to 5, right, that's 8 hours. So, and you take an hour to drive to and from work, you know, that's 2 hours or whatever. So you have, you know, 5 hours or whatever left after all of that other stuff, after your sleep, after your job, after driving to and from work. You have 5 hours left in the day. This is what he says in his tweet. And if you have a family and relationships and stuff like that, you can spend a couple hours with them. You can spend a couple hours with your family. And this is exactly what I do. This is exactly what I do when I come home. I come home from work, I spend a couple hours with my wife, and then I get ready to start streaming, and then I stream. That's how you achieve your balance, is maximizing your time. If you're sitting around scrolling on Facebook for 2 hours a day, it's amazing how much people spend scrolling up and down their news feeds on Facebook and Twitter. It's absolutely astonishing how much time people spend doing that. If you just cut that out, or cut some of that out, you don't even have to cut all of that out. You know, if you just cut, like say if you spend 2 hours on Facebook normally, and you train yourself to only spend 1 hour on Facebook, that's an extra hour that you can have creating content, or that's an extra hour you can add to your stream, or that's an extra hour you can network with people, right? So you have to take an inventory on the time that you're spending in your day-to-day and find out where cuts can be made. I would not recommend cutting down too much on sleep. Sleep is very, very important. So I would not recommend cutting down on sleep. I would make sure that you're still getting a healthy amount of sleep. And you can't cut down on your job, obviously, right? But you can cut down on your television time. You can cut down on just browsing news feeds on Reddit and Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. All of those things that aren't going to contribute to the success you are going for. You can always cut those things out. And then you have more time to spend on the things that you want that'll help you achieve success. So balance is extremely, extremely important, though. That's why you don't want to only sleep 3 hours a night, because then you're going to be tired all the time because you're not balancing your time properly with regards to how much sleep you're getting. You don't want to just cut off all of your relationships with either your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your family or friends. You don't want to cut all those relationships off, right? Because we all know that video on YouTube from the person that streamed for a year on Twitch or 3 years on Twitch or something like that, and cut out pretty much his entire life, and then ended up having nothing left because it didn't work out. We all have seen that video. Since then, the community really stepped forward and helped him out, but we all have seen that video, or a lot of us have, right? So you have to achieve balance, and the best way to achieve balance is maximizing the time you have throughout the day, and the best way to maximize the time you have throughout the day is to take an inventory on where you are spending time now and figuring out where cuts can be made. You know, like cooking, for example. I'll say this really, really quick before I leave this question here. With cooking, meal plan. My cousin is a physics major. He cooks one night a week, and he plans out his meals throughout the entire rest of the week. So he doesn't have to cook every night. He cooks one night on his day off where he's not doing anything, and then he has his meals already pre-prepared and ready to go. That's another way you can save time. Hashtag life hacks. Hashtag stream science. Next question. Lil Funk asks, I know I did a question already. That's okay. You can ask multiple questions. No, I did a question already, but I'm starting to stream. Don't know what game I should stream. Any suggestions? This is a very, very tough answer. Very, very tough question to answer from the hip. There is no one game that you should stream. If I say you should stream For Honor, that's not the right answer to that question. If I say you should, now, I can tell you what you shouldn't stream. I would not stream Fortnite. Can you guys tell I don't like Fortnite very much as a game to stream on Twitch? I think I've said this a couple times. I would not stream anything if you are just starting out. I would not stream anything higher than 3,000 viewers. That's just a completely arbitrary number that I came up with, but there's reasoning behind it. I feel like a really, really great starting point for streamers is any game within that couple hundred to couple thousand viewership range. I think that's a really good sweet spot for a lot of streamers, because that means a couple things. Number one, it means that there's enough people watching the game where you can grow a community. How big your community is going to grow depends on the game that you choose, right? And depends on how engaging you are as a streamer and how much you're able to grab people and get them coming back to your stream. So I think games within that few hundred to couple thousand viewership average definitely have enough people watching them where there's enough viewers to go around if you're just starting out, right? But there's not too many where you're going to be absolutely drowned out and completely buried in the directory. So if I were to pick a game, if I were just starting out today, I would try to find a game within a couple thousand to a few hundred viewers. Anything within that range, I feel like, is more often than not, and Shroud actually said this as well in a YouTube video that somebody shared with me not too long ago. I forget who it was in the chat. But Shroud says the same thing. If you stream a game with a couple thousand viewers and you know, you're not going to be saturated, you're not going to be buried in the directory, and there's enough viewers to go around for you where you can grab and start building a community. But as far as what specific game, I can't answer that question because I don't know what you like. You know, I don't know what type of streamer you plan on being. I mean, it's impossible to tell somebody what game you should stream. Just stream this game, Forehead. There's no such thing as just stream this game, Forehead. There are things that you can do to maximize the chances that you can grow a community and grow your stream, but it's not as easy as just stream this game, Forehead, because that's just not. I mean, there's just so many variables besides that, right? And then nothing's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. Bell asks, I like your perspective. Okay. Garner more viewers doing IRL than playing video games, but I enjoy streaming video games more. Both audiences are really different, so I feel like I can't do both. I want to grow my channel more, so I'm not sure if I should bite the bullet and do more IRL. Somebody said just stream Fork Knife in the chat. Fork Knife, Forehead. Forehead Night. Just stream Forehead Night. So the choice is between streaming video games and IRL. You get more viewers in IRL, but you like streaming video games more. Well, I think you already answered your question. I think you answered your own question, but I'll humor it with a little bit more detailed explanation here. If you said you enjoy videos, if you said you enjoy streaming video games more, then that's your answer. You've answered your own question. Now, this speaks to a greater conundrum. This speaks to a greater conundrum that streamers struggle with, including myself. I wasn't really enjoying For Honor all that much in, you know, June and July and August, and definitely August, which is why I switched. And I wasn't really enjoying For Honor all that much back in April either. You know, I've gone through flashes where it's like, yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it for a couple weeks, and then I go back down, and I'm not really enjoying it again. And then I go back up, I'm like, oh my god, this was a really fun night, right? So, but I was really up. I've been really up and down with For Honor since April. It's been a long time coming from the channel, for the channel. So I was in that exact same conundrum where I was like, okay, I want to grow as much as possible on Twitch. I know that streaming one game is going to make me grow the fastest, or I believe that. This is what I believe. But I'm not really enjoying the game. What should I do? You know, I feel I was in that exact same situation. That's why I ended up switching. So the long answer to your question, it depends on what you value more. It depends on what you value more for your channel. In other words, you say you want to grow your channel more, but you're not sure if you want to do something that you might not enjoy. Well, which one of those things do you value more? Do you value growth more? Or do you value doing something you enjoy more? Right? Now, that said, you should enjoy what you do no matter what, in my opinion, because if you're not enjoying what you do, you know, people aren't going to enjoy watching you. But if, like, for instance, you know, say, let's use the two games I'm playing right now, World of Warcraft and For Honor. If you're in a situation, well, that's actually a bad example. Let's just say generically, if you're streaming a game and you're looking at either a different game or a different directory, right? And you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, I enjoy this game. I would say I enjoy it about like a 7, right? This is the game you're currently playing is at like a 7, right, for enjoyment. And then like, you know, whatever you might be going into, we'll say is like a 6, right? So the game you're currently playing, you enjoy 7 out of 10, right? 10 being the highest. What you're thinking about going into, you know, you still enjoy it, but not quite as much, but certainly not low enough to the point where you would just not consider doing it at all. Let's say like a 5 or a 6, right? So there's not a lot of variance there, right? You're still going to enjoy what you're doing, what you're going into, but maybe just not a little bit as much as what you were doing before. But if you really value the growth potential of that, and you feel like you can grow in that thing that you're doing, maybe that 5 or a 6, you know, as far as overall enjoyment is concerned, will come up to like a 7, or maybe like an 8, or even higher than what you were doing before. You might find that the growth that you're experiencing and the interactions that you're building with the people in the chat have raised your enjoyment for that activity, right? So that's why I say it depends on what you value more. If from a strategic perspective, if you value growth, you should stick with one game for as long as you can. You should stick with one game for as long as you can, in my opinion, from a strategic perspective. But of course you want to enjoy what you're doing, and if you're bored of what you're doing and what you're doing has gotten stale, you have to decide if the loss in viewership and taking a step back is going to be worth the enjoyment you'll experience by going into whatever that new thing is, right? That's a decision that you have to make. I don't think that really answers your question, but that is my perspective on it. That was my perspective. For instance, I'll put it as shortly as I can here. I wasn't enjoying For Honor enough to stay in For Honor, even though I was averaging 5 times more viewers than I do when I play WoW. I wasn't enjoying that enough to put myself through just streaming that game over and over and over again, right? So that's my perspective on it. But it all comes down to what you value more at the end of the day. So only you can answer that question. So I can't really answer that question, but I can offer my perspective on it and how I approach it. And that's how I approach it. You have to put value points in what you're doing versus how you're growing. You have to value point each one of those things and see how they compare to one another. Sotrol asks, if you want to be growth on WoW stream, you must push R1 or... Wait, what? Can't really make out what this question is. If you want to grow on WoW, you must push R1 or Gladiator. Okay. I don't really understand the question, but thanks for asking. I think. I'm sorry. I think Sotrol is saying if I want to grow, maybe I should play Gladiator instead of Valkyrie and For Honor. Maybe. I'm sorry, Sotrol. I really don't know. I think there might be a little bit of a language barrier. And I apologize. Maybe in the chat you can explain your question a little bit more. But yeah, I'm not sure what exactly you're asking there. I apologize. Max Fax asks. Say that 10 times fast. Max Fax asks. Crap. I said Max Fax asked. Whoops. When did you start playing World of Warcraft, not streaming? I started playing World of Warcraft in 2007. In 2007, I started playing World of Warcraft a long time ago. Actually, that might not be true. I started whenever Burning Crusade came out. When did Burning Crusade come out? I think 08 was Lich King. Yeah, Burning Crusade was 07. Yeah, I started playing when Burning Crusade came out, so that was 07. I think like late 07. And I really got into it when Lich King came out in 2008. So yeah, that is when I started streaming WoW. Or not streaming WoW, but that's when I started playing WoW. I've been on and off with WoW for a very, very long time, but I have been playing the game pretty much for, I would say, 11 years now. And I always go back to it at some point. It's home to me. I have a lot of great memories in WoW. I know WoW. I have fun playing WoW. Even though sometimes I'll take a really long hiatus from WoW, I always go back to it at one point or another because I love the game. I think it's a really great game. And it's nostalgic for me too. Like I mentioned, when in 2008 when Lich King came out, I was in college with my roommate Mike at the time. Really, really good friend. We've kind of lost touch lately, but he was my roommate at the time, and we were like best friends while I was in college. And I remember waiting in line at GameStop for the midnight release of The Wrath of the Lich King. And we skipped class like 3 days. We skipped class like 3 days after Lich King came out so we could grind out levels in WoW. So, and there was a lot of funny stuff that I would pull in WoW. I was a very, 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 very big troll. Very, very big troll when I used to play WoW. I was not a good person. Let's just say it that way. I'm a little bit of a troll. I've always been at least a little bit of a troll, but I was not a good person in 2008 when I played WoW. Oh man, my friends, I'll humor you guys with this story here. My friends and I would make sport out of breaking up guilds. So we were like two of the top players on our server at the time. And a lot of people knew who we were. So we would make sport of joining guilds and then breaking them up with like internal politics and stuff like that. It was so bad. I was such a bad person. I was such a bad person in 2008. I'm still troll now, but it's way more good-natured. It's way more good-natured, but trolling can go too far. Hello, Mind. How are you doing? I see you in the chat. I think it was more a statement about growth requires rank 1 or glad in PvP. Oh, I thought you were talking about I thought you were talking about For Honor. Yeah, that is a much different question then. Thank you so much, Hollow Mind. Holy crap. Let's get some poggers in the chat for Hollow Mind. Damn, dude. Thank you very, very much. That makes much more sense now. If you want growth on WoW, you must push rank 1 or Gladiator. All my rank 1 friends have more than 400 viewers every day. If you want, I can help you, but Gladiators really needs patience. Hollow Mind! Thank you so much. Holy crap. I thought he was talking about Gladiator in For Honor for whatever reason there. It's been so long since I PvP'd in WoW. I think this speaks to the difference between gameplay versus entertainment, right? I am of the school of thought that an interactive, entertaining streamer beats a professional level gameplay streamer every single day of the week. Every single day of the week, I feel like an entertaining and interactive streamer will beat a professional level streamer from a gameplay perspective. Now, they're both really, really good to have, right? You're gonna get a lot of viewers with both, right? But not everybody is a professional level Fortnite player. Not everybody is a professional level CS player or whatever, or WoW player or For Honor player, right? I am far from a professional level For Honor player. And I was pretty much the #1 streamer in For Honor more often than not when I would stream it. I would average more viewers than some other players that were at a really, really high level. Not professional level players. I can't say that because there really weren't any when I would stream. But I consider myself far from a professional level For Honor player, and I was more often than not the #1 streamer in the directory whenever I would stream For Honor. So I think that Kane actually said this. Kane actually said this the other night, and I completely agree with this. If you're interactive and you are engaging with your chat and you are entertaining to your viewers, that's going to resonate more with people than just being really, really good at the game you're playing. So that's how I feel. Now, somebody in the chat said right now, you think Summit, Ninja, or Shroud, or almost any of the League of Legends players are entertaining? I think there are exceptions to that rule. I think that Summit's really, really entertaining. I love Summit. And I don't watch Ninja a ton to say one way or the other, but I have watched a little bit of Shroud, and I think Shroud's pretty funny. But Summit's a hell of an entertainer. I think Summit's a really, really entertaining streamer. He's funny. He makes jokes. There's always a handful of funny moments that you can count on in the chat. He's a likable personality. You watch Summit, you just can't help but like the guy. He's just one of those guys that like has that aura about them that just draws you in, gotcha base. That just makes you feel like this is a cool person that you would like to hang out with. Like Summit definitely has that. The times I've watched Shroud, I feel like he's entertaining, and I don't watch Ninja a ton, so I'll use Summit as an example. I think Summit's a hell of an entertainer, definitely. But that's a different breed of streamer. Shroud and Summit and Ninja streamed on Twitch before Twitch became Twitch. Those guys have been streaming for years, before streaming is what it is now, right? So they had a first mover advantage when the streaming industry blew up. Now, so that's not the only reason they're successful, but I think that's a big part of why they're successful. When you, like, again, Fortnite with Ninja. Ninja streamed Fortnite before Fortnite was huge. And he was a 5,000 average viewer streamer before Fortnite blew up. And now he averages 70 to 100,000 viewers a stream. I mean, so if that first mover advantage is significant. But those guys have also been around for a very, very long time. So it was a different time back then streaming on Twitch. It's not anything like it is now. Now it's not just, Dr. Disrespect talks about this on his channel too. There's a video of Dr. Disrespect saying exactly this. The days of just streaming a game and growing on Twitch are over. They're long over. So what can you do to separate yourself from the other 3-some million broadcasters on the platform? It's entertainment. It's interaction. It's building relationships with people. It's branding yourself a certain way. It's delivering really great content that transcends the game. It's all of these other things. If I'm a pro level CS player and I start streaming Counter-Strike right now, the average viewer, like people that are connected with the Counter-Strike community might find me, but not the average viewer who just wants to hang out and watch Counter-Strike, right? And certainly if I'm just playing Counter-Strike and not even acknowledging anybody in the chat, I feel like not many people are going to stick around very long either. So it was a different time back then when all those guys started streaming. And by the way, Shroud and Summit were pro CS players back before streaming took off. So they also had that going for them as well. So they were pro level CS players, and they got into streaming before it got big, and then streaming got big, and so did they. So I think it was just a different time back then for those guys, but I certainly wouldn't say they're not entertaining. Even with, with Ninja, I don't watch Ninja a ton, but I know he's a hell of a Fortnite streamer. I know he's one of the best Fortnite streamers in the entire world. So if I want to learn about Fortnite, I can watch Ninja and learn a lot of things about Fortnite from Ninja. I can do the same thing with Shroud if he's playing PUBG. And if I want to watch a high-level player, but somebody who's a little bit more on the entertainment side and interaction side and putting on a show side, Summit gives kind of both of those things, you know what I mean? But I think just back then it was just a different time. They streamed on Justin TV. Yeah. Voxicity in the chat says, pretty sure Ninja streamed Halo Reach back on Justin TV. Yeah. I mean, so yeah. There are some streamers that have a ton of viewers that probably aren't the most entertaining out there. I don't know who those streamers are because I don't watch a ton of big streamers, but I'm sure you can find a few out there, so it's just different things work for different people, though. That's the moral of the story. But the one constant I have found on Twitch, is that if you're a high level or pro level gamer, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can grow on Twitch. It'll give you a good chance, but it doesn't necessarily mean in every single case that is going to be what you need to grow on Twitch. But if you're a hell of a streamer and you're a hell of a person and you're a hell of an entertainer and people laugh their asses off watching your stream and people are enjoying themselves when they're in your stream, I think that can be applied to every single thing that you can do on Twitch. So that's why I value entertainment and interaction more than gameplay. And the game can get stale for people sometimes. You know, I'm saying you know a lot. I told myself tonight before I started my podcast that I would try not to say you know, because I've been watching my VODs for my podcasts especially, and I say you know so much. It drives me insane. I think I've been a little bit better tonight, but I'll go back and watch this tomorrow to know for sure. But if you're relying on being a pro Overwatch player, for instance, to grow your stream, if you're relying on being a pro level Overwatch streamer to grow your stream, what happens when Overwatch is dead in 3 years? Maybe not 3 years, but what happens when Overwatch is dead in 5 years? What happens when nobody's watching Fortnite in 3 years or 5 years? And all you've branded yourself as is a pro level Fortnite streamer. All you've branded yourself as is a pro level Counter-Strike player. All you've branded yourself is a pro level Overwatch streamer. What happens when Overwatch is dead? What's going to happen to your channel? You can be entertaining no matter what you play, but you can't always be a pro gamer at whatever you play, because it's very, very, very difficult to be a pro level gamer. And it takes a lot of time, and trends come and go very, very quickly. Gamgoon, how are you doing tonight? Why do you still support Sylvanas? Gamgoon asks. Oh man, this is a wild question for those of you who aren't familiar with who Gamgoon is talking about. Sylvanas is the leader of the Horde, and I am part of the Horde right now. I don't really support Sylvanas. I think she's a jerk. I wish Sourfang was the war chief. I don't like Sylvanas right now. I used to like Sylvanas. I used to think Sylvanas was cool, but then when she burned down Teldrassil, or Teldrassil, I think is how you pronounce it, that was uncalled for. So she's kind of a jerk. So I don't support Sylvanas, I support the Horde. How about that? MaxFax asks, God, I still love saying that. MaxFax asks, I'm a bit of an introvert and quiet. Would there still be any success in Twitch? It's tough. It would be tough. Think of, a lot of people compare Twitch to television, even though they're two different mediums. But imagine for a second that you were watching a television show where all the actors were kind of like, you know, not saying a whole lot, you know, like being really quiet, just kind of like doing their thing. Like imagine if you watched Modern Family, and the dad in Modern Family, who's like my favorite character on that show. I don't watch Modern Family a ton, but I always found him really, really funny. You know, imagine if the dad on Modern Family, instead of like being a goofy screw up, you know, like a lovable screw up, was just kind of like, oh, hey guys, what's up? Hey, how's it going? What are you guys up to? That's cool. Probably wouldn't be very fun to watch, right? So I kind of see Twitch the same way. Now that said, I think it's more difficult to grow on a platform. Well, let's back up a little bit. I think the reason why I think Twitch is an extroverted centric platform. Is it exnocentric? No, that sounds like ethnocentric. I think Twitch, I think the people who watch Twitch, for the most part, wants to watch for interaction, and interaction takes being extroverted, I feel like. So I think extroversion is what's going to drive a lot of your interaction and entertainment. Now that said, I don't think it's impossible to grow on Twitch as an introvert, but you're going to have to approach it. You're going to have to approach it differently. Maybe instead of, and I guess I'll use the gameplay example, right? And somebody said in the chat, Ninja barely talks to his chat. Dude's got 70,000 viewers and barely talks to his chat. I mean, you could use Ninja as an example again. If Ninja doesn't talk a lot with his chat, and he's not giving you a lot of interaction, but you're still watching him because he's a hell of a Fortnite streamer, then there you go. That's what you're looking for when you watch Ninja, right? So if you're introverted and quiet, I think that you can be successful. I don't think it's impossible. I do think it's more difficult, however, because most viewers want that interaction with the streamer. Most viewers want to feel like they're being entertained. You know, most people feel like most people want to feel like they're part of the community. They're a part of what you're doing. They're getting involved in what you're doing. So if you're an introvert and quiet, and you're not interacting with people in the traditional way, you would have to look for other areas to get that interaction. For instance, you know, maybe during one of your games you have a very funny sound effect queued up on your streaming deck or whatever, that you play when you die. You play this sound effect or something like that, or you pull up a if something stupid happens to you in your game and you die, you pull up like a really cringy face or something like that on your stream, and everybody's like surprised by that. They're like taken aback by it. They're like, what the hell, where'd that come from, right? Maybe instead of just running your mouth all the time and talking a mile a minute like I do and like a lot of other streamers do, maybe instead of that you can you can be you can really focus on being a top level gamer in whatever you're playing, right? It's tough for me to think of. It's honestly tough for me to answer this question. I do think there is success. I think that it goes back to the pie. It goes back to the pie that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, right? There's the pie. Do you guys remember the pie? You better remember the pie. I worked a lot on that pie. It goes back to, you're going to attract the viewers that are like you. You're going to attract the viewers that are like you. So if you're introverted and quiet, and that's how you run your streams, your audience is going to be people that are introverted and quiet. So you're probably not going to have the most active chat, but maybe you can have a lot of lurkers. And lurkers are really important, by the way, to any successful streamer's channel. Really super important. We got a lot of streamers in the chat right now. One of whom is partnered, who's a very good friend of mine. Not calling anybody out specifically, but he and I have had this discussion before, and a lot of streamers will tell you that lurkers are very important to the success of their channels. Lurkers are what, God, I said again. Say No to Rage says this a lot. He runs his streams in like a podcast type format. Like, he gives a lot of information for you to just kind of digest throughout the stream. And he was worried that he worried that he wasn't having enough people talk in the chat. But then eventually he realized that that's what his audience is. His audience is lurkers. Most of his audience are worker lurkers, and he's okay with that. So you don't have to, it just depends on who you're going to attract for your stream. If you're introverted and quiet, you'll probably attract lurkers. That doesn't mean it's impossible to be successful on Twitch, but I do still believe that you have to be entertaining in some way, and you have to be engaging and interactive in some way, because it's an interactive driven platform. Streamers there's a good reason why many streamers who just sit there and say nothing throughout their streams don't have a lot of viewers. So if you're not saying a whole lot, you're going to have to find other ways to build that interaction with your chat. And I do think it would be tough if you're not talking. But I think that with a lot of critical thinking and a lot of drive and a lot of brainstorming, I'm sure you could think of some ways to, I can't think of any right now off the top of my head, because I've never thought about how I would run my streams if I just sat there and was quiet the whole time. So that's not my thing, and there's nothing wrong with being introverted at all. I'm not saying that at all. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being an introvert. You're just going to have to find different ways of bringing that entertainment and engagement with your chats in a comfortable way for you. And I'm not sure what that would look like, but maybe with enough brainstorming and critical thinking and enough time spent, maybe you can think of some outside of the box ways to get your chat or the people watching involved in what you're doing without having to talk. So that is a really, really tough question to answer for me, though. So long story short, I don't think it's impossible. I do think it would be difficult, and I think it's going to require a lot of outside-the-box thinking to be successful on Twitch if you're introverted and very, very quiet and don't talk a whole lot, because I think most viewers are looking for that type of streamer. So that was the last question, guys. So that is going to start wrapping things up here. We're at 1 hour and 40 minutes, so a little bit higher than I thought, or a little bit longer than I thought we would go. But we have made it to the end of the podcast. So this was a really, really great experience, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm not ending quite yet, but I do want to leave you with a couple things before I go. If you guys are interested in the outline I have for the podcast, I will share that outline in my Discord server or on my, maybe I'll share it in Discord, or should I share it in Twitter? So you guys can just kind of see if you were taking notes or would like my notes that I wrote, I could certainly share those with you. That is no problem. So if anybody is interested in that, I can share that with you if you just want to hit me up on Discord or Twitter or whatever, or maybe I'll just share it in the Discord server under a channel so you guys can take a look at what I've had, what I wrote down if you're more of like a written format type of guy. I know a lot of YouTubers are actually starting to do this. Gaming Careers is starting to do this too. He's starting to, Pete from Gaming Careers is starting to transcribe his videos for people that are, that are hearing impaired. And Ashley Christ is streaming with captions to cater to the deaf audience, people who are deaf that happen to be watching. So another outside of the box thing that you can do right there. So innovation is very, very important. So I guess I'll do that. I'll probably just share my outline and I'll post it in the Discord server for everybody who's interested, and I'll share it on Twitter for those of you who follow me there, and you guys can have my notes from tonight's podcast. If you enjoyed the stream, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hyperion. I am live. I will be live at 8 o'clock starting next week, Sunday through Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the United States. Those are the days and times I stream. So 8 o'clock Sunday through Thursday. Make sure you follow me there. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, Discord, and YouTube. The questions don't have to stop at the end of the podcast, you guys. If you want to hit me up in DMs sometime, if you want to hit me up on Discord, we do have a dedicated streaming discussion channel on my Discord server for those of you who want to ask questions in a more public format and not just private, one-to-one. You have that as well available in the Discord. And also, if you liked this content, I have a lot more of this streaming type content on my YouTube channel. You can check that out. I do something called My Twitch Journey, for instance. I've documented my entire streaming career on Twitch from start to right now, breaking down my stats every single month. So you can check that out and then follow the random thoughts in my head on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the podcast tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all very, very much. We will be back at this next week on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And I hope to see everybody there. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.